Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, and otherworldly and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitrealshow.com. Without further ado, welcome to this week's episode.
Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, y'all. This is Moni, one of your hosts. And in addition to our regular hosts, whom I will introduce here in a moment, we have Miss Katie, who is one of my fellow librarians, who kind of, can you hear Katie? Can you say hi?
Hello.
Hello. I don't know how much you'll hear of her today. She sort of got dragged in because I lost track of time having too much post-birthday fun with my girlfriends. But in the meantime, I want to kick it over to Mr. Yardley. How are you doing over there?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Atlanta. It's a little brisky, but I think I'll power through it.
Nice. And Miss Christy, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic over here in Shea, Christy. Just sitting in my bed. 3 weeks going, 3 more to go. So, hey.
I bet you watched everything that there is to watch, though, like binging. Have you seen anything that you should recommend?
Actually, I binged Mindhunter on Netflix, and that was really good. It's kind of like a story about how the FBI began profiling and the story behind it.
I think I've seen a couple episodes. That was actually pretty interesting. Yeah.
Then I totally binged all over again because I'd already seen it, The Tudors. And then after that, I finished watching all of The Tudors on Netflix, I decided to watch both Elizabeth movies because, you know, Tudors. And yeah, I've seen everything, really. I am so burnt out of TV. I'm never going to watch it again once I leave this bed. I do feel like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory grandparents. You know how they were always in bed and everything was like going on around them and they were just sitting in the bed in the middle of the house? That's how I feel. It's crazy. So.
Well, at least the next time we need a recommendation, we can come to you.
Yeah, I'll be an expert.
Well, instead of weird news today, I just wanted to quickly go through, I visited the San Diego Maritime Museum, which is located downtown. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to Nicole Strickland. She's actually from the San Diego Paranormal Research Society. And she's actually done a couple of really great library programs for us. One of them, she actually spent about half the night doing some paranormal research in the library where she actually recorded some really creepy EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, where she caught ghosts talking in our library offices. So,
awesome.
Yeah, like we had one, my old desk, she actually mentioned something about her book being on my desk, and this male ghost really clearly like answers her about that book.
Oh my gosh.
So, like hair standing up on the back of your neck type of shit for sure. And then the next year she came back and did a really good program, really well researched about the Queen Mary. So over last week, I was actually like, on my birthday, me and my girlfriend, we just want to go out and find some little bit of daytime trouble, do some ghost hunting. So I texted Nicole and I asked her where we should go. And she said the Maritime Museum was the place. So we went down there. It was a beautiful, California in January. It was like in the 70s and breezy, gorgeous day. Out on the harbor, just living the life. And my girlfriend, who's actually not here right now, her name is Jen, and she is a little bit sensitive as well. And we were underwater in this submarine. And there was this operation room where they actually used to perform, obviously, surgeries and things. And she actually, got this super creepy, nothing that we can measure. We're not actually Scooby-Dooing this shit up. But she totally got, a super creepy feeling. And so I was doing some research, and it turns out that all of these ships have sort of mysterious, kind of dark histories. One of the ships was actually in the movie Master and Commander with Russell Crowe.
Oh, yeah. I just watched that the other day.
Nice. Yeah. So, well, see, good rest, you see. But it's still outfitted. Like, when you go there, it actually still has all the physical appearance that it used to have. So that was kind of neat, but they're rotting. The ships are all rotting, because they're just kind of falling into disrepair. But in the meantime, one of the ships that's down in the museum, so it's basically a group of ships and then the submarine, and one of them is the Star of India, and I'm just going to read this little paragraph.
I've seen that. I've never been on it, but I've seen that boat. Every time we go to San Diego, we always go there and see it. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a little creepy. So it says the British vessel has a long, mysterious, and dark history, beginning with its maiden voyage when the crew was forced to saw off the ship's masts during a gale. It's still hauled out and afloat and restored and is moored at the San Diego Maritime Museum. The ship's first captain died on the second voyage and was buried at sea, while another of the captains slit his own throat in a drunken fit and was sewn up by the ship's physician. And I was curious, I couldn't find out, but I was curious if he was sewn up in the room where my friend was getting that weird, creepy feeling. But he ripped his own stitches out and bled to death in the first mate's cabin. So that is pretty hardcore.
That's on the Star of India?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a, that's more than a drunken fit, I would say. That's kind of understating it.
A little bit.
And then the cabin reportedly has a dark presence with passengers being awakened by someone touching them or pulling their covers off. Never what you want.
No.
And then in 1886, a young stowaway fell 100 feet from the rigging and died 3 days later. And then shortly after, passengers and crew began reporting that the boy's ghost drew an S shape on their backs, which, hello, I would think I would jump overboard just to get away from that ship.
Whoa.
Thank you. So this is how the game of tag was played at that time, which no ghost tag, thanks very much. They also reported cold spots and hearing a boy giggling. And other ghostly encounters have been reported on the lower deck, where many passengers and crew died from accidents and disease over the ship's long history. So, and then another of the ships that I checked out was the Berkeley Steam Ferry Boat, which is a super cute boat, but it's used for special events. It has a full working library, so of course I was library geeking out over that. And it's had, in the late 1800s, it's had almost 2,000 passengers, and a lot of ghosts are supposed to still haunt the ship, including John O. Norbaum, who died in 1911 in a fiery explosion on the ship, and he is still spotted throughout the ship wearing a fedora. So there you go.
Fedora? Really?
Yes, fedora. Which, yeah, it doesn't seem like the right time period, but I don't know. What do I know about anything? So we have some photos of us
You're
on the ship.
You're a librarian.
I know. I guess I should know stuff about things, but I've also been drinking today, so we really.
Yeah.
But we will post some of those photos because I haven't even gone through all of them, but that's always Nicole Strickland's advice, is to take tons of photos, even if you don't see anything in the moment. And then, and I took some videos as well, so maybe we'll hear something or see something, or maybe some of our creepers will experience something that I didn't first see. But that was our Scooby-Doo experience for the week. Two silly ladies running around on some ships.
Sounds like a fun time.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to move on because the It movie dropped with the bonus features this week. So you could only get those either if you purchased them specially through iTunes or if you bought the physical Blu-ray DVD combo pack. You could not just see them on the digital version, which dropped like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I know, actually, I want to go ahead and let Yardley talk about this because I did watch them, but I think, Yardley, you really kind of studied these, and I really appreciate the depth to which you went on your notes here. So tell me what your thoughts were on these extended scenes.
I thought that the scenes were pretty solid, but actually after taking a step back and watching them a few times, I can definitely see why some of them were left out. I did enjoy the gag, which was the first deleted scene. So I guess you really can't call it a deleted scene since it just seems like a gag that they had on set. But one that really stuck out to me that I wish that they would have left in the movie, I think it was the one where, was it Henry Bowers? There was a scene where he had slit the throat of, I think it was Well, actually, was Belch was actually in that movie, right? The Belch character.
I can't remember. I need to rewatch. Sorry,
Let's-
I watched these scenes, but I didn't watch the whole movie over again, which obviously I need to do next.
Actually, I don't think that the character of Belch was in there. But anyway, nonetheless, his two friends, the one that was driving, I think it was the Firebird car, but Henry had slit their throats, and that kind of explains the scene where he's near the well and he has the blood on his face, because that was something that happened in the movie. So I thought that was I thought it was a striking scene, and it really wasn't that long, so I don't necessarily see why they would have left that out. But for the most part, a lot of these scenes, even though they were cool to see, they seemed, they were a little bit more fillerish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could get behind a few of them, but it's always nice, especially with the movie that we all enjoyed in particular, to kind of see what got left on the cutting room floor.
So quick question for both of you guys really quick, because I didn't get to see these scenes, so I'm going to be very quiet. Finally, I'm sure everybody's excited about that, but I keep reading about the baby eating scene, and I've read it, but the actual scene description, but I haven't seen it. Did you guys think, I just would have liked to have seen something like that maybe, because it takes place in the past. Do you think that would have belonged in the movie or no?
In this one?
I'm trying to see that scene. So the rumor is that scene, so if you guys don't know what we're talking about, there was a scene that was cut from the film that was filmed where the Pennywise character basically, it's from the past, kind of closer to his origin, and he's not shown doing it, but he tells this woman, this young mother, that he's going to kill her whole family if she doesn't basically sacrifice her newborn baby. So she turns away, and you hear crunching while he's eating her baby. Ooh. The scene was described on Reddit, and Bill Skarsgård had a hard time filming it, as one could imagine. It's very psychologically damaging. But the rumor is that it's supposed to, the reason why they didn't put it in the bonus features is because it's supposed to show up in the next movie.
Oh, this
and as much of a
as
sick
a
fuck as I am, is I hope that it does show up in the next movie.
So this was not included. Don't see, here I am.
Right, not in this
way
one.
ahead of y'all. I'm so sorry. So I thought that it was in these scenes. So I was really curious as to what your thoughts would be on if it should have been in this movie. It would be awesome then if it shows up in the next one. So that would be awesome. Sorry, I jumped way ahead. So you guys continue
not at
on with your
all.
bad selves.
Yardley, are you excited about that scene? Do you wish you'd gotten to see it?
No, I think it fits in the next movie because in some of the interviews they did say that they were going to explore Pennywise a little bit more and his history, and which is something that I definitely think is needed because I could see someone going into this movie, asking, hey, where does this thing come from? So seeing as they are pretty much committed to having to do that in the next movie, I'm pretty sure it'll show up, and I'm with it. I mean, I might not like it, but yeah, I don't care if they go there.
Let's hope they do a better job explaining his origins than Jeepers Creepers 3 did. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Gosh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of, sorry, I had to throw that out.
Well, actually, look, actually, since we're going to have to hold our noses about that movie, I will bring up another. I'll bring up another scene that was deleted that I thought was that I thought was kind of cool. They had an extended scene of them leaving the Neibolt house. It wasn't really anything that was really that special. But there was another scene where Bill's dad, he looks into the basement when Bill was saying that he saw Mikey downstairs. And I thought that was kind of cool because if they would have inserted that into the movie, I think that you would have really bought into the fact that, his father would have been in danger because Pennywise was down there. But of course, the father goes down there, doesn't see anything, scolds Bill about, holding on to the past and things like that. So even though that scene wasn't a super awesome scene, I thought that it definitely probably could have been fit in to add a little bit more attention earlier in the movie.
I liked the scene, actually, Stanley's bar mitzvah speech, where he goes on an extra long kind of rant about how Because they talk about how Derry has had this long history of unexplained deaths, and especially like murders and deaths and disappearances of children. And like, I'm sorry, but it's hard. It's a little hard as a parent anyway to just suspend your disbelief watching this and go like, yeah, I'm going to live in this town where young children just fucking disappear and nobody does anything about it. Like, so it was interesting to see kind of a kid, like from the mouths of babes, call it out and be like, we all live in this town where we walk around pretending like kids don't disappear here, at certain, every few years or whatever. So I thought that was a cool scene, and it really showed a little more of Stanley's character, saw the little dude kind of grow a pair and stand up to his dad. I don't know. I don't know if it needed to be in the movie, but it was fun to watch him kind of go to that level in the extended scenes for sure.
Oh, yeah. And the slow clap was awesome. And I apologize because I know all of the people who love horror movies are probably going to jump down my throat. It was Belch and Victor who Henry Bowers slit their throat. So that was Belch. But we didn't really get a lot of that. But now that I think about it, I think he did burp, around with the rock scene. I think when they were throwing the rock. So. Oh, but anyway, that's about it.
Nope, you're
I just had to
your
clear that
horror
up.
movie street cred. That's it.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody
was ready to ether me up.
Yes.
Every time when I go back and we talk about this movie, one of the scenes that now, even this far back, after watching it the first time when me and Yardley went to the movies together, Stanley's scene where with the painting or the photo on the wall in his dad, I guess it was his dad's office that
photo was scary before it came to life.
It was already creepy. So when I was a kid, I have to tell you all this really quick. I was afraid of photographs and pictures or art or anything. I used to make my mom had like decorated my room, and she put all these family pictures up, and then pictures of different like strawberry shortcake and all that. And I made her take them all down because I thought that they were going to come alive in the picture when I was a child. And that's why I loved Holly Hobby when I was a kid, because you couldn't see her face. It was just like a body with like a hat. And so whenever this part comes on in the movie and that picture comes live, that is like one of my worst nightmares coming true. It just totally blows. And every time, like just seeing Stanley reciting I'm reading the notes, Stanley reciting his Hebrew in the synagogue makes me think of that, and it freaks me out and gives me the chills every time. Even just reading that, it's crazy.
Well, honestly, I think that's why this book, and we talked about it when we did our film review of this movie, it's like why this book and this movie hits every note. It's just like, because Pennywise can manifest whatever you're most afraid of,
yes.
Theoretically, but then also because they kind of go there, at worst case scenario, you're afraid of something that eats babies. I mean, they're going to hit you at some level in these films or in the book. So yeah, it's pretty effective one way or the other for sure. So I guess we can move on to our main topic, and I want to do a disclosure, and I do apologize I apologize-ish, because I'm not a big fan of like being PC and apologizing for my actions, but I will say that before we decided to do Jeepers Creepers 3, I had either forgotten or blocked out because it's so horrible and so many other horrible things are happening in the world. Yeah. I was a fan of Jeepers Creepers, the first one, and I enjoyed-ish the second one, and completely forgot or didn't realize that, and this is a horrible thing to not realize, that the director of all three films is not only a child molester, but actually a convicted child molester. And that came out around the time that the third film was being filmed or coming out, so it went straight to DVD. So I just want to say, like, none of us here, the three of us, I think I can speak on all of our behalfs, we're not advocating for this director. We're not saying go watch this film. And actually, when you hear our review of the third film, you probably will never want to go watch it.
Yeah, you'll thank us.
But for people who just, in a simpler time, before we knew kind of everyone's business outside of like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski, who just enjoyed horror films and liked movie monsters, Jeepers Creepers, I thought, was a fun and well enough done film that most of us who like horror films enjoyed. I know I did. And the second film has a very simple eat a bunch of dumb shit teenagers who you don't care about premise.
Yeah.
And it's simple, it's effective, it's fun. You can eat popcorn. It's not gonna fuck you up in the head like a Black Mirror episode that you're gonna think of later. You might get cool jump scares. And I just was interested in seeing the third one because I don't know why. I just was kind of curious about the mythos of the monster. I don't know about you guys. Did you guys have any interest just overall in finding out where this thing came from or why it existed, or was that just me?
No, I totally did. I have to tell you that the first Jeepers Creepers scared me. I accidentally watched it one time. How do
you accidentally watch it?
Yeah, I wasn't really into, like, I don't like slasher horror. I'm usually about ghosts and weird shit. So this really wasn't on my radar. And one time, years ago, and I think this kind of propelled me back into really a lot more horror, is I accidentally watched this movie and I didn't even know the name of it. And it scared me. It really did scare me. I wasn't planning on watching a scary movie. It just kind of, I was like, what's this? And started watching it. It scared the shit out of me. And of course, the second one didn't. It didn't really do anything for me. And so they teased this show or this movie as, finally, we're going to get an explanation as to who this guy is and where he comes from. And that was really the whole basis of what they had said before this was released. So yeah, I absolutely wanted to understand a little better what it is, where it came from, what makes it do what it does for every 23 years or whatever. So
yeah. Every 23 years for 23 days it gets to eat.
Yeah.
Da-na-na.
Yeah, so I like,
so he's Pennywise basically that can fly.
Basically,
yeah,
a cheap ass one. Yes,
the first one is good. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it for what it was. It doesn't pretend to be what it's anything. It was good, and I enjoyed it. And so, yeah, I was torn because, I know you had forgotten this, but you and I had this conversation when we talked about Jeepers Creepers before in this new one, and I was like, I'm bummed because this is coming out, and I want to see it, but with his past, I don't know if I should, this doesn't feel right to support it. And of course, we were supporting it before, we just didn't know his past. But anyway, so I was gonna probably watch it anyway, and it's not like we paid, we didn't go to the movies and give any kind of support, and we can now keep people from having any kind of curiosity and do a review on it.
Yardley, were you interested in this character before, or no? You just watched it because we watched it for this, or?
Yeah, I just watched it because it was your recommendation. So this was the first installment that I actually, the first one that I have ever watched all the way through. And I think my previous experience was, I think I saw a scene. I don't know if it was from the first one or the second one. I just remember a school bus. And
That's
number two. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I actually saw that scene, but didn't watch the whole movie. And when you brought up not necessarily knowing enough about the character, I was like, oh my God, so 3 movies in and people don't really know. Yeah, don't really know anything about this thing. But yeah, the parallels to the Pennywise thing is kind of crazy. I mean, 20 something years, and then it, goes on this eating spree and uses the fear of the people to find him, I suppose. But
yes.
I have to say this movie didn't really land with me. And the only person that was in this movie that I think I remember, I can't remember his name. I don't know if he was the sheriff, the black guy.
Yeah.
The one who played the boxer in Harlem Nights. He's like the same guy, but he was the only guy who I recognized.
That's
based
Stan
off of
Shaw.
That.
Stan Shaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. It was just, I don't know. There wasn't really anything that I was feeling about that movie, so.
There's nothing to feel about that movie.
No,
so
it was horrible.
I'll just piggyback off of y'all because,
So yeah, once again, not only do I apologize for supporting an asshole who rapes children, but also I apologize for making us watch another shitty movie. Moni should have the remote taken away from her. This is probably why my family doesn't ever let me have the remote, because because I make bad decisions when I'm sober, apparently. But if you'll let me take this for just a moment here, like, fuck this movie. Like, okay, so number 1 and number 2, there's a little bit of curiosity. Like, this creature, it has wings. It smells your fear. It only comes out every 23 years. It's unkillable, okay? Like, there's a point where you're watching a horror film about a monster, so you're suspending your disbelief, and you're like, okay, I'm following this. And it molts. So, like, in number 2, somebody shoots, like, an arrow through its head, and then it just pulls half its head off, but then it, like, molts its body off and just, like, keeps on going like a lizard. That's not really what a bat does. I don't fucking know. Like, okay, fine. Like, but... Okay, film number 1, it has a truck. Film number 3, we find out that this truck is a Mario Kart car. I don't know. It shoots things.
That was ridiculous.
It has. I mean, I was half expecting it to have turtle shells and like squid oil come out the back.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And they tried to make like the car have like a personality. It was just
yes, they did.
No.
He does, and in the second, well, I think in the first movie too, but more so in the second and third films, he has like throwing things that like are sharp, and he has like a spear, and he never misses with his spear. But again, he flies, he's strong, he's unkillable. Like, it is unfair. This is like a perfect killing machine. Where did this thing come from? Like, is it an alien from outer space? Like, what? Who designed this thing and was like it's not even fun to watch because there is no chance that anyone's going to be able to kill it. It's not like Mike Myers where maybe you can double tap this shit. Like, what is happening here?
Yeah, it was... Go ahead.
Got a personality. No, I'm just laughing. You said it had a personality. We were kind of drawing parallels between this villain and Pennywise, and I guess like this is the alternate universe Herbie the Love Bug or something like that.
It was, I have to ask.
Pennywise stops being good and watchable and entertaining and just turns into this shit.
Yeah, I have to ask about the hand. What the fuck? I mean, the dead hand.
What, is there voodoo involved in this then? And we never find out. At least I was
Why
like,
is the hand alive? Why?
No.
It didn't make any sense. So, anybody who hasn't seen this movie, or number 3, for some reason, somehow, some dude who's dead that the mom can see has buried the hand of the Jeepers Creepers. And yes, so when anything gets cut off,
but he has hand because he just grows them back.
Yeah, he grows them back. Anything he eats, he can reproduce. So he eats eyes, he gets new eyes. He eats a hand, he gets a new hand. I mean, anything that he eats, he can then grow back. So, okay, that I can kind of wrap my tiny brain around, but the dead hand, so it was cut off, but it was still alive, and then when you touch it, you know stuff about it, but what do they know? Like, they didn't show anything. No. It was so ridiculous. You get super cool
white eyes for no reason, though.
Yeah, you end up with white eyes, and then you're very wise and know everything that this guy wants to do, okay? But it doesn't say anything. And then he ended up this show trying to be funny. Like with that, like wagging his finger.
Yes.
Oh, God. I'm sorry, but all of the acting for me, every single person in that movie had horrible acting. It was awful.
Oh, the sheriff's narration. I'm like, is this Sin City? Like, was this a graphic novel movie? Like, what the hell is actually happening here? And the harpooning, you guys, the harpooning. Does anybody ever bob and weave or duck or zigzag? Like, every single time he throws a harpoon, you're going to run straight in a straight line in front of him and just be like, I'm just going to run until you hit me. Okay, ready, go.
Yeah, and even when you're
on... stand there lined up waiting to get hit. What is happening?
And even when you're on like a 3-wheeler or a 4-wheeler, apparently you don't even have a chance. So this harpoon is just going to hit you.
Hey, now, if Rickon Stark can get shot from 100 yards
away...
And
I was thinking about Game of Thrones,
if Charlize Theron gets ran over by a fucking spaceship.
Yes.
Then Herbie the Love Bug Evil Quinn can like harpoon you. You know?
So how come in every horror film where a killer with a knife is chasing you, you fall down, but every time they're throwing something at you or shooting something at you, you run in a straight line, standing upright, and just make the biggest target possible?
Because, Moni, they need to die. That's the whole point.
Oh.
I'm really happy that y'all brought up the hand, because when I was watching the movie, I was kind of doing other things, and I looked up and saw the guy like beating the hand, but I refused to rewind it. You know what I mean?
You're like, no, I just don't need to know.
Thanks for filling me in on
Guys,
that.
like, what did I miss?
It's bad. No, it was a really bad. It was very disappointing. I had really high hopes for this movie, and it didn't explain a damn thing. It just raised more questions than answered anything, and I don't even like the things that they introduced new things that just make no sense. And the worst part is they introduced new things into this movie is in between 1 and 2. So you can't do that. Okay, so you introduce new shit and it's all, so he's still on his eating spree, but all of a sudden there's all this new shit that's different from 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. So how can you possibly think that's going to make any sense? Because Yardley, when at the end, when they get on the school bus, now it's riding into part 2. Did you get that at all? I mean, if you haven't seen 1, it's kind of hard to even put all of it together. So the end of part 3 was the beginning of part 2. So,
well, and I'm looking it up right now. The kid who does survive, who no one cares about, and no one cares if he survives, who gets on the bus at the end of the part 3, who we're supposed to assume, is on the bus for part 2. That actor's not in part 2.
That's what I wondered, but I was like, Yardley too lazy to even explore. I'm looking at it right now. Was this guy even in part 2?
He was not in that movie. Because that kid has so many freckles, like he's just got a look that you would recognize. Yeah. He's not in the second film. So, again, like, there's no continuity, even though they pretend there is. Mario Kart car doesn't exist in part 2, even though they're dealing with a bus. So you would think it's a movie about something that's on the road. A bus would make like a good battering ram. His car would make a good battering ram to knock over a bus. Like, there's some cool suspense stuff that could be brought up there, but it never happened.
In part 1, because I just watched part 1 the other day because my son wanted to watch Jeepers Creepers. And we watched the first one, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. And that car is not on it; does not run on its own in the first. It's literally just used as transportation. Whereas all of a sudden, like how many days later, it's on its own. It's got all these tools, and it's like a Batman utility belt, and he can stand on top of it, and it drives around by. It's like, what the fuck? How do you go from that to that in just a matter of days? And then back to the original type truck for part 3. It's just horrible.
Did y'all notice, too, like, if we're drawing parallels with the It movie... Oh, so first of all, the task force that shows up at the beginning, apparently we're all survivors of the same monster, and they all had, like, some kind of patch, like they have some kind of support group. That's like, we all survived the creeper 28 years or 23 years ago. Let's all be friends for life. And are they actually cops? Are they some kind of rogue people? What are the taxpayers doing that, like, they're just like, all these cops in the whole town have nothing better to do now. They're just, every 23 years, this is what we all do. So anyone who wants to rob a bank, that would be a really good night to do it. I'm just saying.
And also, where's the jail people from the first one? Well, that's what I thought at first was happening, is because, he went into that jail on the first one. And so I thought this, not understanding yet that it was in the middle of 1 and 2. I thought this must be the people from part 1. No.
It's like a dumber version of Derry from the It movie, too. It's like, how about if everyone in town knows that along this road, every 23rd year for 23 days, let's evacuate everything along this road for 23, 24, how about a month, and everyone will be safe. And it will have nothing to eat, and maybe it will starve to death, and we won't have to deal with this in 23 more years.
Yeah, I don't know.
Light bulb, like, I don't...
You've just finished the whole series right there. Boom. Bye.
Oh, I cannot even. So, also a little backstory because I chose again something so bad for us to watch. My penance was to research this.
Oh, Lord.
So, yeah, it was painful. And apparently they were supposed to write a movie called Jeepers Creepers, Cathedral. And the Cathedral movie, there's no word on what it would have had in it except for that it was supposed to be a way better film, which honestly, filming my toilet would have been a better film. And it was supposed to actually have the backstory and, origins and all that stuff. And now they're talking about making a TV series. And I don't know. It's like an abusive relationship. Like, if the director's not involved, at least, maybe I would want to watch it. But they hit me so hard with this movie that it's like I don't know if I want to come back for more, even though I really liked the beginning of our relationship with the first two films. It's a very shaky endeavor. And if this director, I think he will be involved, in which case I don't want anything to do with it. Like, I don't know, guys, but... Ew. And I did want to say, too, the second film, one of the things that actually was effective in that film, for me, and Christy, you can tell me what you thought, the creeper at some point lands on top of the bus and starts sniffing in the windows. And that's the first time, really, I think, between that movie and the first one, that you really see his face. And he's, like, sniffing in the window, and he starts licking the windows. And it's super kind of gross and creepy. And I thought that was kind of a cool, like, exposition of, like, his face and, like, kind of creepy and cool about, like, how he smells your fear and how he was, like, picking out which victims he wanted and stuff. And then I felt like you guys said, in this one, they tried to make him kind of funny. And he sort of walked around like he was Wesley Snipes in Blade. And
yeah, he looked like he had more of like a cowboy hat in this movie versus the old hat he had in the other two. They tried to upgrade his wardrobe, and I was not. He had a weird mullet, and it just wasn't. I don't know who did the styling. It must clearly not be the same stylist or person whoever makes this creeper guy, but it was not at all the same, which is stupid because if this takes place in between during the 23-day eating spree between 1 and 2, why would you change his appearance? Why would you? It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, on day 21, he went to the Big and Tall Men's store, ate the clerk, and then got himself a new look, okay?
He didn't go to Big and Tall. He went to Hot Topic. He skipped the Big and Tall and went straight for the emo tight T-shirts and the crazy hats and his weird jacket. Yeah, he decided that he needed to get emo in between.
Well, and among so many other things, like not making any sense at all, that this film suffered from. I mentioned this when we did our review of the It film. For me, they showed Pennywise just a little bit too much to where I'm terrified of him, I'm terrified of him, I'm terrified of him, and then I've seen him so much that I'm a little bit desensitized.
Right.
Even though I'm still scared, I'm not as afraid. And it was the same with the creeper, where the first two films, you see him, but in this film, it's like he's walking around in the daylight. Yeah. He looks like a bad cross-country meat trucker with all those bodies in his back of his Mario Kart. Like, just... So I'm going to ask Yardley, too. What would we give this as a grade, if you had to give this a grade? Or star review, what would we give this?
I pretty much agree with IMDb and everybody else. I would give it 2 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't really that interesting, and it definitely wasn't something that if you never saw any of the previous ones, you would enjoy it at all. I mean, you wouldn't enjoy it at all anyway, but I don't think that it helped me in any capacity that I haven't really watched the previous two.
Well, I feel bad because actually Moni really likes the second one. The second one was okay for me. It was a good concept. I wasn't as creeped out. The first one was, for me, was great because, like you just said, you have the creeper, but you don't know what's going on. And, like, if you can just imagine this brother and sister driving cross country, in a old, just in the country, and all of a sudden this weird shit starts happening. This car, this weird old truck is getting up on your ass and honking at you, and you're just have no idea what's going on. And then you stop and eat and call the police, and you come outside and your car door's open and all your laundry's everywhere. And he was sniffing their laundry, and it was just the most fucked up thing, And then they go to that old lady's house and with all the cats, and it was just creepy. It was super creepy, and
and the psychic and the creepy phone calls. Yeah.
You had so much more build up and actual creep factor. I would say I wouldn't even give it 2 stars. It wasn't even worth a 2-star review for me. I'd give it like a 1.7, if that. Sorry. It was pointless, ridiculous, horrible acting. It was a waste of whatever money they spent. I can tell you that right now. So
I want to give it 1 star because it spits in the face of other movies that I did enjoy. And so where it would have maybe gotten 2 for, I don't know, maybe some stuff I hadn't seen before, 1 star for punching my other movies in the face. And for not being what it promised to be, which was an actual origin story of something more interesting. And by the way, speaking of whatever money they spent on it, the effects.
Yeah.
So
bad.
Yeah. Like, the sci-fi movie of the week has better effects than that stuff. And it's like, maybe the director/writer lost support because of his personal stuff. I don't know, but I feel like the first 2 films looked just fine. And this film was just like, if you can't make it look better than that, maybe you write around it and don't have that particular explosion happen at all. Like, shame on them.
I've been reading, I see it says serious contender for the worst film of the year. 14 years for this. He's waited 14 years for this. Really?
Yeah.
Low rent, pretentious, pointless. The Creeper deserves better. Total letdown of the Jeepers Creepers franchise. Totally agree. Awful movie by any standard. Almost the entire movie was done during the daytime. Worst outcome of 14 years of waiting. Disappointed, not the best. Worst movie ever made. Lots and lots of bad reviews. Complete garbage. So, and here's one. It literally is just all laughing. Ha 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 ha. Yeah.
It's not, though. It's not bad enough to get drunk and do like some Mystery Science Theater Beavis and Butthead heckling. Like, it's not quite that bad,
It was pretty bad.
And
it was pretty bad comparatively.
We forgot to mention, though, the very end has the woman who played the sister in the first one, who was the main character, whose name escapes me, and I'm not looking it up right now, but she actually was at the very end. She still looks really pretty, in case you're wondering if she's still hot. And they set it up for a 4th film, which I don't know if anybody is going to watch after the bad taste left in our mouth from this one. And I don't know if they're going to make us wait for another 14 years. And if we haven't been nuclear bombed into oblivion by the next 14 years, and if this director/writer isn't in a jail cell somewhere like he should be, we may get a 4th film that actually follows in the first one's path. But who knows if that'll ever happen. Do you guys think you'd be interested in watching that? Is that the next shitty film that I should pick for you guys?
In 14 years?
Yes, in 14 years. When we're still doing this.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. It literally would have to be... I'm pissed because they built this one up so much and it's garbage that I don't know. I would have to see the trailer and the reviews before. I'm definitely not just going to watch it, that's for sure. I'll be reading the reviews and trusting them for sure.
Yardley, are you out on
Yardley?
another one?
You're like done.
Yeah, I'm definitely out. I agree with Christy on that one.
All right. Well, before we say where we're at on social media, I think we already have our plans because we got our shit together here, y'all, in the new year. And I think we know what we want to do for our next episode where Mr. Yardley is going to be our main host. Therefore, he gets to pick the topic. Do you want to talk and tease a little bit about what we're doing next week?
Yes, on Tuesday, when you are able to download this episode on the Facebook page, there will be a link to the top horror movies of 2018 that actually will start hitting theaters in January, later on this month, in the next week or so. So we're going to discuss those movies, and we'll talk about the different trailers that we've watched and kind of rank them in order of how excited we are to see them. So we'll find out. There might be some that you might watch the trailer for that you're like, that's garbage, I'm not going to see it. But I watched it today. It's basically a 20-minute YouTube video that has roughly 10 new horror movies that are going to be coming out. And, you know, there were a few. There were 3 or 4 that kind of made my antenna perk up. So we'll get that posted on the Creeping It Real Facebook page. We definitely would love the creepers to give us their opinions on these movies and let us know which ones you would be interested in watching, because, hey, I've got Movie Pass. I can actually go to the movies to see this for the, for the
We have
Rolo.
got to get them sponsoring us.
Seriously, what is this? I'm going to have to talk to you. And Yardley, I'm putting you on the spot because I am a cripple. I am commissioning you to come drive up to my neck of the woods and take me on a date to a horror movie, because nobody else in my life likes horror movies or any of this other crap. So now you're on the spot.
With your torn Achilles or whatever?
My torn ligament. I don't even care. I'll crutch it there. It's a movie. I can crutch there and sit down. It's not like I'm going dancing or the Claremont or anything. So let's do it.
No doubt. Yeah, we can definitely make that happen. But in addition, we're also going to do a movie review of a anime suspense film. It's called Perfect Blue. I'll definitely post a link so everyone can kind of get some insight on what this is about. And we're kind of going to jump into reviewing this anime suspense horror movie. So I think that's going to be pretty fun. Japan knows how to do it when it comes to horror and animated series. So we'll see what's going on with that. So I really look forward to it. I mean, hey, we're going into February. It seems like this year's starting off pretty strong. So I look forward to next week.
This is why I love having this show, because I get introduced to things that I never in a million years would ever watch. I would never, ever watch anime. I don't even know what that means. So I know it means it's a cartoon, and I'm excited to try it. And I'm excited that it's something I've never done before. And then just like Moni with making me watch shitty movies. I'm just kidding, Moni, by the way. I am just kidding. No.
I was going to throw myself in Yardley's camp and say we're going to take Christy deep into our geek world with anime and all those type of things.
And
but
comics.
I guess if you want to go into my shitty world, we will just start filming my toilet.
No. I meant comics, but I had to throw that in there because I will take your joke and run
that.
with it.
I'm 3 for 3 now? Jesus, somebody take the remote away.
We can't have every show be a good review, because that gets boring. We got to get some bad reviews in there. You're balancing us out. Don't worry about it.
That's true. And Yardley, tell the 14-year-old girl inside of me, I'm dying to know, she's dying to know, is my Slender Man involved in the trailers that we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, it's actually I think it's the very first trailer, because I think it comes out next week, maybe.
That means someone else thinks it's good. Yes.
Well, I don't know if the order in this mashup necessarily reflects the quality of the movie, but there's some good ones in there. Now, I also got some news, and I guess I'll put this in the show notes next week. Some updates about the Halloween movie that's coming
nice.
out. So, yeah, I read some news on that earlier today, but we'll save it for next week.
Nice. I'm excited. I love it when a new year hits. New year, new horror movies. Bring it.
Yeah, exactly. So with that said, we have an exciting show next week talking about less shitty things than we talked about this week. But in the meantime, Yardley, do you want to tell people where we can find you on social media?
At militant_marker on all platforms.
What about our guest? Our poor guest who hasn't said anything.
Where can we find you, Katie?
Oh, I don't actually know if my stuff is
public. She runs the social media for the library.
Yeah.
Ooh, but she hides.
I hide. And I like to read horror. I've watched very little, so it's very interesting to like listen to this podcast and kind of like see what's going on. I actually have seen Perfect Blue, so that's kind of cool. I'm definitely going to check out next week. But it's been like 10 plus years since I watched it, so I'm going to have to rewatch it. But yeah, I don't think I have a searchable social media.
It's all good. And Christy, she says Perfect Blue is going to mess with our minds. So we'll get to thank Yardley for that next week,
I'm
too.
excited. I like my mind to be fucked with, so that makes me excited. That is exciting. I'm happy then. See, this is why I love having new things introduced to me, because I'm such a creature of habit. Just like Yardley introduced Train to Busan. I never would have watched that movie because it's foreign, and it's not like I don't like foreign movies. I just, for some reason, they just don't hit my radar. And I really like Train to Busan.
It was really good.
Really good. So, I mean, again, y'all are bringing new things into my world. I love it. So, you can find me at The Creepin' It Real Show across all medias, as well as Creepin' Christy on Instagram.
Nice. And I am on Instagram as Moni Bear, MoniBarre, and Twitter at Rebel Moni, like the Billy Idol song that it hails from. And with that, guys, have a wonderful week, and you guys will be hearing from us again next week.
Bye. Watch your things, homie. Homie, watch your things. Homie, watch your goddamn things. This is to be learning something to get taught. Why the fuck don't you lock up the shit you bought? It sits poorly lit in a vacant spot. If you don't get it, it's gonna get got by me. Open up the homie.